I prefer Europe because I'm very into sustainability, so a train or bus or a shared car sharing, that's the primarily option for me. When I have to fly, I do it, but there must be a reason for me. So with my previous university, with the Department of Forestry, we flew to Vietnam to check on some research, and I think that's it.
Good morning, my name is Regina Loukotová and this is our architecture podcast. Today we have Petra here. Hello Petra.
Hello, nice to see you.
Actually it's our fresh teacher, so to say. She has started teaching at the ARCHIP this academic year in September 2023. And actually it seems like she has been forever with us. And she's a landscape architect and she's teaching landscape design and social ecology here in the bachelor as well as in the master program. So Petra, welcome here to our podcast. You are actually our first non-architecture design studio teacher.
Okay.
I'm happy to have you here, and as usual we will start with your path to, in your case, landscape architecture, not architecture. So do you remember the moment when you decided, yes, I want to become a landscape architect?
Oh, definitely. I discovered that because I was always very interested in biology and arts, and the only field of study to combine biology and arts actually was in landscape architecture.
That's right. And how old were you?
Oh, high school first year, probably, maybe even a little bit earlier. I was really towards that quite early because we were always motivated to choose our career early, because the high school could start a little bit earlier, in like 6th grade of primary school, and then you need to choose your major subjects and seminars. So actually we had to think about our university studies quite early.
So that was an intersection between, let's say, biology and, can I say, design? Also, were you interested in like sketching and photographing nature, whatever?
Yes, all of these.
Really?
But actually, I was worried to make a good career, so I was more specifically into botany, into plants, and into design and arts. But I was worried my sketching is not excellent, and to combine it as an architect, it seemed to me to be very practical.
True, where you can also, I mean, actually when you start studying, let's say architecture, landscape architecture, still the array of different professional options is in front of you. Actually from, let's say, research, you could have research to your plans, or you could work in the garden center or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So my career is more into practical gardening than designing. I do some designing, but I actually prefer real gardening, and still I'm planting trees and plants whenever possible.
This I can only confirm, because since a month we have a beautiful plant jungle decoration in our office, and it's spreading around the school. And going back to your childhood, how were you considering studying abroad as well, or your choice was only schools in the Czech Republic?
Oh, during the high school, I did not really know about the options. We were not access to the internet yet. But when I was in my university studies, I was very interested in going to study abroad for a PhD. I did some Erasmus exchanges and some travel, mainly within Europe, but then I actually did not manage to study PhD abroad. So I started studying in Czech Republic, but my supervisor was American, and I worked in the international office, and I helped with the admission of international students and postdocs for the faculty.
But when you mentioned Erasmus, where were you?
Really?
Where did you? Really? Yeah.
Slovakia once, and Austria, because I speak German.
Okay, great. And when you were like traveling outside of your university studies, where were you traveling? I mean, outside of Europe?
I prefer Europe because I'm very into sustainability, so a train or bus or a shared car sharing, that's the primarily option for me. When I have to fly, I do it, but there must be a reason for me. So with my previous university, with the Department of Forestry, we flew to Vietnam to check on some research. And I think that's it.
But that's interesting. I mean, that it's also probably the image I have in my head when I look at our office, that you are also building for us or designing and building for us a small jungle.
Oh, yeah, that's the basics of the designing should be to start with the basic of the nature plant communities. That's what we are trying to mimic, to make it to look like very effortless.
Nice word, effortless.
Yes.
So back to the university, to your university studies. Where did you study in the Czech Republic and how was it?
Okay, so my first bachelor degree was at the Faculty of Horticulture. It belongs to the University of Mendel in Brno, but the faculty itself, it's located in a UNESCO heritage area, Lednicko-Valtický areal. So it's a little bit remote, but there is a beautiful landscaping park and many facilities for studying perennials, annuals, dendrology and other plant communities. So I did enjoy it a lot, and then I completed my master there as well. And simultaneously I did another bachelor degree in forestry at the same Mendel University in Brno. After that I had some volunteering and breaks and travels and some work experience, and then I started my PhD in landscape ecology at the Faculty of Environmental Sciences at the Life Sciences University here in Prague.
In Prague, Suchdol. So
yes.
Also a little bit outside of Prague, let's say part of Prague, but still at the edge of Prague.
Yeah, definitely, because it's, let's say, agriculture university, so we have fields, experimental fields, some greenhouses, and other facilities we use for training of the students. So I cannot imagine this to be in the city center.
That's true. No, it's a faculty we collaborate with now and then. Also, when you mention your tutor at your studies, wasn't it Mr. Henry Hansen, or our former colleague who unfortunately passed away last year, or his colleagues at the faculty? Yeah,
exactly. It was his close friend Petra Kadlecová, and there was definitely collaboration. Peter and Henry, we went for some field trip with students and workshops.
Yeah, field trips, I think, is an important part of studies.
Sure.
Not only in landscape architecture, but in the architecture as well. So probably we can jump from your studies. Or before we jump to field trips, I would like to ask you which subjects were your favorites during your studies?
Oh.
Or were there some which were the...
Botany and plant physiology, because I also worked at the Czech Academy of Sciences in the Department of Experimental Botany.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really into details. I'm very focused on details.
Interesting, because I have to admit that these courses, or name of your courses, probably I heard somewhere, but they are not taught at architecture schools at all, which they are probably too detailed. But I'm happy that at ARCHIP we implemented the landscape design course already on the bachelor level, at the level in the second year of our student studies.
I would like to mention there is a little bit difference in approach at, let's say, American universities and in Europe, because in America or in the US they have the landscape architecture as a part of College of Design or a School of Architecture, but here in Europe, including like Austria or the Netherlands and other countries, the landscape architecture is traditionally taught at horticulture universities or agriculture, life sciences. So then the background is really more deeper in agriculture, forestry, gardening than in constructions or urbanism.
That's very true. Suddenly there are many questions which pop up in my head. regarding specifically collaboration between landscape architects and architects, but we should kind of focus on our path.
It's all about communication.
That's right. So now we know your favorite subjects, and we can jump to your career after your university, before we go to field trips in architecture education. So have you worked in practice? Oh, you said you loved practical things, practice. So what did you do after your studies?
Okay, actually I finished my studies only 2 years ago, because when you had to count all the years including PhD, it took a while. So I have always combined my practical career together with studying. Mostly I work in some smaller, like family-owned business or some smaller companies for like planting gardens, really like to be in touch with the materials. I haven't worked in huge designing studios. I think I'm a little bit looking forward to still add it to my CV, but I think the basics are really to be aware how to be in touch with the primary materials. And I did combine it with the research pathway on the university, so I was a member of various research groups and research projects. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a interesting combination. I mean, I can then later recommend you some nice studios here in Prague or outside of Prague. Anyway, I'm really happy that now in 2024 already, it's kind of a natural thing that architects are collaborating with landscape architects, that actually the projects are getting richer by this collaboration. So field trips. I mean, by this we can like jump into our way of teaching and our way of educating young architects. So what do you do when you teach? How do you combine, let's say, smaller walks with students or different like local visits with field trips and in-class education? Yeah.
When I was studying, the field trips were an essential part of the education, and not only like 1 day or 2 day or 1 week excursion, but also during the practicals for these 90 minutes blocks, we were used to run around the experimental fields and greenhouses, because you cannot really learn it properly within the classroom. So we usually start with some presentations and some theory background, but as the semester goes ahead, we have to go outside and somehow prove what was said in the presentation. So with my international students, I usually take them for, let's call it, walking tours, when we always have a topic and we walk on different places in the surroundings of Prague. For example, one of the favorites is Praha Ďáblice. There is a production of greenery for the capital city of Prague, and simultaneously there is a cemetery designed by a famous architect in Cubist style. And adjacent is an observatory for astronomy, which is within a large park, which is a recreation base for adjacent block of flats, also well known from urbanism studies. So this is one example when within 2 hours we cover 4 different topics with the students, and they get some documentation, they can have a look at in the real terrain, they can experience in first hand the surrounding.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. I was not aware that the greener or the flowers, let's say, are produced in Ďáblice for the city of Prague.
Yeah, the company it's called Lesy hlavního města Prahy, which translates as forest of the capital city of Prague, and many the woody species for the streets are produced in place here.
Okay, super. So that's, the students enjoy that. This we are aware of. And so that's the landscape design, and you have a social ecology as well.
Sure.
Another course. So could you mention something about that?
Yeah, I would just say that students maybe, I'm not sure if they enjoy, but they are usually surprised because often it's their first time experience with such a topic or material. With social ecology, we focus a little bit more on relationship between the humans and their environment. So in 2 weeks, we are going to see the outskirts of Prague from the direction of Praha, Chuchle, and we will walk towards Zbraslav, which was the oldest settlement in this area around Prague. And there is also a confluence of the rivers Vltava and Berounka. And there is a prepared huge project for a suburban park. So we will combine the history and the future, and we will see how the landscape there is interwoven with highways and pathways and bike roads, recreation, suburb housing, and nature protection and recreation. Everything in one place.
It's quite vast area there. Yes, there was an architecture competition.
Sure.
And actually this project is becoming, I think, one of the biggest projects, for like Prague municipality at the moment. I mean, in the field of landscape architecture and let's say green Prague. So I'm happy that the students, they really also in your during your walks and excursions that they can see. I mean, as you said, kind of covering 4 different fields, like architecture itself.
There is this huge bridge, the highway bridge, and there is this bike road you can walk actually underneath.
Yeah. Also the transportation. So I think not only 4 fields. I think we would find more fields than that. But let's open the topic of the collaboration between architects and landscape architects, because when I studied in early 90s, we perceived, or we were told, that landscape architects actually they are more like garden designers.
Sure.
That this like scale or the I mean, not even the bigger scale, of landscape architecture, not even the smaller scale, were included in our profession. I had my stay in Oslo, in the Snøhetta office in the 90s, and there I was surprised that the office consisted of architects, was 50%, and another 50% was landscape architects. And I saw clearly how landscape architects are influencing architects and vice versa. So can you tell us something about that kind of development? Why was it like that in Czech context, the Czech context, and how is it changing now?
Yeah. So my perspective is that it was caused by the history of the education, which was practically done at the university based in horticulture, agriculture and forestry. So nowadays the study plans for the landscape architects here have much more stress on the constructions, materials, and the landscape architecture is getting closer to urbanism and architecture itself. So I think it was a little bit of like remnants in your education in the 90s. So probably it was remnants of the education of your professors in, let's say, 70s or 80s, when definitely landscape architects, the name in Czech for landscape architecture used to be sadovnictví, which means more like, let's translate it as ornamental orchards. And nowadays it's developing more towards real architecture, small public places, and of course green infrastructure and sustainability. So I would call this one branch of designing. And then we have today the big development of GIS software and remote sensing. And landscape architects also work with landscape ecology. That's actually my PhD background. And then you spread out from urbanized areas to general landscape and nature protection, and the actually quite new topic of well-being and recreation, and then climate change and its impacts, because this everything is done mostly using these GIS softwares.
Yeah. Let's speak about how fast the professional development is implemented into the university curriculums. What is your experience with that? Or have you experienced something like that, that actually practice is far in front of the teaching itself?
Yeah, so in general, the academic curriculum has to be approved by the Ministry of Education, which provides some kind of sustainability, and it's for 5 or 10 years. So it does not enable much improvement, or it's supposed to be stable, not dynamic. But on the other hand, we usually deal with this issue by inviting external experts for various lectures and workshops for our students. And also one of my assignments in my teaching is a research topic, because as a university we have access to the libraries and resources of up-to-date research, and my students are forced to use these top results for their reviews and researching.
Yeah, that's really deep into. It's really going into details. I mean, one thing is with this re-accreditation and accreditation processes, as well as using the results of different researches during studying for our students. So let's also open the topic of like collaboration between landscape architects and architects. As I said, when I was studying, we didn't know anything about them. Nowadays, it's quite more often that these two professions are collaborating. They are also united under the Czech Chamber of Architects. But do you have some experience, or can you tell us how do the landscape architects look on the architects, or do they like them? Or
I admire them. I admire architects, and I like working with them. It's, for me, I think it's mutually beneficial. I appreciate when they ask for details about green infrastructure, and it's mainly gardening, but it's getting more and more common that they collaborate, and it's also because we have a Green Deal and green infrastructure and other subsidies for our environment, and actually the architects are not able to deal with these topics by themselves. So it's also given by the mood in the society and the policy that the cooperation today is required. That it's not only about the building itself, but as the different fields are getting more and more specialized and complicated, actually there is a stronger need for asking for advice and for the collaboration.
Yeah, I'm sure, or I'm convinced that earlier you invite landscape because I'm an architect. So earlier you invite landscape architects to your team, the better the project is going to be. Because I think most of the architects, they just designing their part, and they think, okay, then the building is going to stand anyhow, somehow there on the plot. But I think even there it's very important that you come into picture and you work together on how the building should be accessed, what is the topography of the site, and so on.
Yeah, we are not only for decorating with flowers.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to say, and this is what I experienced. What I experienced 30 years ago in Scandinavia, that this closer collaboration is really beneficial for all sides, and the projects are definitely then getting better and better. So
it's not only the building itself, but also the surrounding.
Yeah, but I think they are like equal. It's not like the building that it's more important, and then landscape. But I think these two parts of the projects are definitely, like playing with each other and being kind of developed throughout the project.
I would say it started with the trend of green roofs and vertical gardens and climbers and these kind of features, and maybe that was the beginning of the prospective collaboration.
When you mentioned green roof and green facade,
yes,
can you tell us a little bit more, either your opinion on that, or Yeah, I think it's a big topic. Today or in this and last academic year, we collaborated with Vinny Maas from MVRDV, and his last week he published a book called Green Dip. So he's really recommending to use greenery everywhere in the city, to make cities greener, and wherever he can, he implements greenery on the roof. So what is your approach or opinion on that?
Okay, I'm the skeptical one. I think it's overrated, the influence. Definitely you need to think if it's beneficial or not, if it's only design or if it has some real impact. Here in Prague, I believe it's still somehow considered as the part of the public greenery or the green coefficient. I think it's difficult to say it in general. You need to focus on each specific case of that roof or that green wall, vertical gardening. It's very interesting that what we are able to produce and where we are able to keep the flowers, but from the plant physiology perspective, the plants are organisms designed to have roots in the soil and be in touch with the soil, water, and create actually the environment for other organisms. So for me, this is more about design or some kind of comfort of people, like microclimate regulation, shadow, and I think we need to somehow consider it and include it in our designs and urban areas. But I'm the skeptical one in the way that the costs of these features are quite high, maybe not the initiate cost, but the cost of the maintenance and the replacement. And actually the longevity of the organisms, the plant material is not the same as the longevity as solid building materials. So it looks nice, it works. Definitely there are scientific proofs of some benefits like ecosystem services, but I consider it to be more design than function.
No, I think we need both. We need optimists and as well as skeptics. But when you mentioned that the flowers, they need soil, and so then immediately this aquaponic garden and vertical gardening, city vertical gardening came to my mind. Do you have some opinion on that too?
Sure. They have something which works as a substitute of the soil. Soil is actually agrobioclimate system and microorganisms and much more than just something you can put your roots in. But there is additional nutrition in the irrigation system.
But for example, when speaking about this vertical farming, those city farms, do you think is that a way how to produce, let's say, products for the city inhabitants?
I wish it could be, and definitely there is some room for development and places to be used. I'm not agriculture expert, definitely, but so I would, to be a little bit more specific, some kind of vertical gardening is very practical. For example, in the greenhouses, when you use more than one layer of plants in this controlled environment, you can save a lot of space, energy for heating and irrigation. If you would consider this as a vertical gardening, because you have, for example, 5 layers of salads in one greenhouse instead of one layer on the ground, then it's definitely beneficial. If you are talking about the vertical gardening that you are using walls,
I was more into the...
Yeah, because for many people vertical gardening are these green walls. Also you can put different crops there. Then trends in agriculture now, it's robots, robotization, like automatization. So when it's vertical...
Okay. No, I actually haven't heard about vertical walls and gardening on them.
Yeah.
For me, they were more these stacked fields, so to say, which with the idea of densifying the cities and so on, these could be also part of that densification process.
I don't have detailed information, but for me the farming, it goes a little bit against, because urban areas are supposed to be very dense and have some functions contracted inside, and we expect mostly like traffic, business, offices, and the countryside is supposed to be for agriculture. It's also the question of quality of the air quality and quality of the water sources should be clean. The environment for producing food. So then it must be some kind of controlled atmosphere.
Yep.
Getting
probably in the future we can
more
expect
complicated.
That. Yes, and also last.
Maybe if I could add one more factor, and it's sun, because sunshine is for free, and for plants to produce the photosynthesis, they need a source of light. In vertical gardening, you need to use electrical power actually to provide them with the light.
That's true. You hardly can get sunlight into the lower part of the vertical garden.
No, there is artificial light. So probably the energy cost must be somehow in balance with the production cost still to produce.
I think we open up a really broad topic of city gardening, and you also mentioned sustainability. This is also my concern when listening to different proposals or seeing different designs. I think we might be clever in funding the projects in the first stage when implementing it and having the project ready to use. But then those annual costs which you need then for sustain the projects, these must be enormous.
Yeah, maybe some hobby gardening or small scale farms for some daily production of some green leaves is maybe cost effective and beneficial, but real agriculture happens still in the countryside.
For sure, because you open another topic, which is the city gardening. When we speak about like public spaces or well-being of people living in the cities. So this gardening definitely, the topic of gardening definitely belongs among those.
Yeah, but this is more social or culture topic that you are aware of the source of your food production.
Also,
the EU Farm to Fork initiative.
That's true.
It's today's trend.
So, thank you very much. Thank you. I think we have to continue, so we will probably make part 2 and continue with our topics of gardening and vertical gardening and city gardening and all those topics of green roofs and green walls and so on. But for today, thank you very much.
You're welcome.